Syakib. Kalau macam tiba-tiba lah terjatuh jajah dia. Itu yang sebenarnya kita rindu.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wasallam. Qala rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang saya hormati Advisor Intellectual Youth Club UIA, Dr. Morris, yang saya kasihi para kepimpinan IYC UIA, khususnya saudara Syed Putra Ahmad yang telah banyak berusaha untuk menjayakan berbagai program-program ilmiah untuk santapan akliyah dan rohaniah mahasiswa UIA maupun mahasiswa di luar UIA. Dengan izin, tonight to be precise, I will be continuing the presentation that my friend Sayyidina Osman Al-Quraishi has presented just now on Islamization of Malay world. But my topic today, if you can see at the screen up front, it is a conclusion by itself. I'm not posing any problems or questions, but rather a conclusion that I want to prove by explaining the details why such conclusion has been achieved by some of our most erudite scholars that we have in Malay world. So the topic of my presentation today is Malay civilization is an Islamic civilization. That is a definitive conclusion. So if anyone does not agree with such conclusion, please bear with me so that we can go through my argument, and inshallah, if there's time for Q&A, we can have a proper discussion on that. Next. So the fruits of discussion, or the thamarat, the goal or the ghayah of my presentation today will be on three things. So if I'm explaining something that may be a little bit too high or too advanced, I hope you can adjust your intellectual framework in order to attain any of these three, or the best you could attain, and you can attain all of them. First is to dispel the myth of dualism between Malay and Islam. I am sure you have been aware, in the mass media, some of our leaders, some of our scholars have been always explaining and defending that Malay and Islam is something alien, that it cannot be viewed as a whole unity. So this is a very grave problem. We might not be attacked by Orientalists like how our brothers in Jambi is currently facing, but nonetheless, confusion is widespread among the Malays, especially among the one who learns religious sciences. As if that the Malay people has never been touched, has never been molded with Islamic spirit. And anything that involved about Malay in the struggle, be in politics, in culture, in language, as if those struggles are positivistic in the sense of Islam. Secondly, I hope from my presentation I was able to galvanize the understanding and the importance of unity of the Malay as a prerequisite to revive and reinvigorate the Malay civilization. And finally, is to embrace history as fardu ain. For all Muslims, especially the Malays, to understand the Malay history at our very best. Because it is, say Prof. Al-Attas, it is a fardu ain. Because nowadays, as you can see, not many Malays, be it in Malaysia or Indonesia, really understood what it means to be a Malay. Next. But throughout my discussion, I will be dividing it into two segments. The first one will be explaining about the meaning of Malay and Malay civilization. Secondly, is about explaining the significance of ʿAṣabīyah. Why I raise this issue? Because I will prove later, inshallah. For a civilization to be established, to be built, one must really possess, the people must possess a strong and cohesive ʿAṣabīyah. And perhaps being you are a student, you are surely aware on the popularity of the word ʿAṣabīyah that is being used by Ibn Khaldun in his Muqaddimah, his magnum opus Muqaddimah. I hope your students are aware of this. Because throughout the writings of Ibn Khaldun, especially about his political writings, in his sociological and anthropological studies of Islam, Islamic civilization, ʿAṣabīyah is one of the most central concepts that shaped his theorization of the rise and fall of civilization in Islamic caliphates. Before I go further, let us try to understand the meaning of Malay through the writings of our very own scholar. Up in the front, you can see that this is a piece of manuscript, a picture of manuscript called Ḥadīqah al-Aẓhar wa Rayahi, written by Shaykh al-ʿAllamah, Shaykh Ahmad Zayn al-Faṭānī, a very famous scholar. I'm sure most of you who have studied in Pondok or Pesantren, I'm sure you have encountered some of his writings that can be purchased in Jalan Tukang Abdul Rahman or in certain Islamic bookshop for a meager 7 ringgit, 10 ringgit, but the content is worth more than that. So, in the writing of Shaykh Ahmad Zayn al-Faṭānī, in this work, he explained a very salient understanding on the identity of Malay. He lived during the era of Ottoman. He used to travel to Ottoman, to Turkey, to Egypt, and study in al-Aẓhar. Hence, he is not really confining himself in just a Malay world, but rather he travels a lot into our Muslim world. So he has a very interesting views on the current state, on the state of the Muslim in those eras. In the work in this Ḥadīqah al-Aẓhar, Shaykh Zayn al-Faṭānī explained and indicates certain features of Malay, what it means to be Malay. For example, when he explained the meaning of Faṭānī in Malay, Faṭānī itu satu negeri daripada negeri-negeri Melayu. Telah lahir sebahagian putera-puteranya baik-baik, cerdik, arif, bijaksana. Ada negeri Faṭānī itu pada masa dahulu di bawah satu daulah kekuasaan dari daulah-daulah mereka yang agung. You see, from the statement of Shaykh al-Faṭānī, you can easily understood that the region of Faṭānī is not the only region where Malay exists. In fact, furthermore, he emphasized that Faṭānī is one out of many Malay states. Okay? That indicates, to a certain extent, the size of Malay kingdom that one must consider or contemplate about. In other passages, he explained in detail. what does it mean, or who is Malay? Al-Malayuwiyah itu dibangsakan kepada Melayu dengan baris di bawah kasrah iaitu huruf min, atau baris di atas dan baris depan dhammah huruf ya. Mereka adalah kelompok segolongan besar manusia. Negeri-negeri mereka adalah sesubur-subur negeri dunia. Negeri Melayu itu terletak di antara negeri India dan China. Alam Melayu itu terdiri dari kebanyakan pulau yang terpencar-pencar atau terpisah-pisah. Pakar ahli ilmu geografi mengibaratkan bahawa alam Melayu itu sebahagian dari negeri-negeri India, China. Orang-orang Hijaz, yakni Arab, dan selain mereka menamakan Melayu dan bangsa-bangsa di wilayah-wilayah itu dengan sebutan Jawa, iaitu satu golongan manusia di satu pulau yang besar di sana. Orang-orang Melayu bukanlah daripada orang Jawa. He denies that despite the Arabs are calling us Jawi, the Bani Jawi, but we are not Javanese. Okay? Bahasa Melayu adalah satu bahasa yang paling ringan mudah daripada bahasa-bahasa penduduk wilayah itu. Sebab itulah kebanyakan orang Hijaz, Arab menggunakan bahasa Melayu dalam pergaulan dengan bangsa-bangsa tersebut, yang berlainan bahasa mereka dengan bahasa Melayu. You see, from the indication of Shaykh al-Faṭānī, Shaykh Zayn al-Faṭānī, he's a globetrotter, we could say that. It has been shown that in the past, Malay language was being used by many Muslims, not only in this Malay world, even by the Arabs, because there were many Malays and Malay scholars in the Mecca and Medina. So you see, the way the Arabs identify people, they identify people not by the land actually, not by or by any other characteristic, but most importantly, the Arabs identify certain people by the features of their languages. Why they call us Jawi, Bani Jawi? Precisely because we have been using the Jawi script to write our languages in our prose, in our writing, in our trades. So that's how we being identified by our Arab brothers in the past. But the image or the character that has been shown by Shaykh Zayn al-Faṭānī has been, I would say, further emphasized, further augmented by Professor Syed Al-Attas in his latest work called Historical Fact and Fiction. To students or to fellow friends who have been reading Prof. Al-Attas, actually you can read many other writings about Malay world, about Malay, the Islamization of Malay world, of his previous writings, especially in his Islam and Secularism. At the end, he explained some general features of Islamization in Malay world. But what's new in this book is that for the first time, I would say, I think, there's a scholar, contemporary scholar like Prof. Al-Attas, who define what does it mean to be, or what does it mean, what is it Islamic civilization? As Brother Osman said just now, it is very important to define things, because without definition, you really cannot understand or know such a thing or features. So in this work, he defines Islamic civilization as a civilization that emerges among the diversity of cultures of Muslim people of the world as a result of the permeation of the basic elements of the religion of Islam, which those peoples have caused to emerge from within themselves. If you see the slide in front, I have bolded and italicized some key terms from the definition. One of them is the word emerge. The word emerge is a very interesting way on how Professor Al-Attas explained Islam being infused into the Malay society. Okay? When we say emerge, normally it depicts or connotes something that appears from outside to inside, from inside to outside, from internal to external. Selalu perkataan emerge ini timbul daripada dalam ke luar. You see? Secondly, the word permeation. Since I'm a chemical engineering student, perhaps I know this term better than many of you here. Permeation for chemical engineering student is a physical process of a very fine particles or molecules that somewhat seep into the tiny pores of certain surfaces. Okay, dalam bahasa mudahnya, seperti contoh, ada air yang masuk ke dalam liang rongga tanah. Ketika mak kita cuba siram air, siram pokok, air itu akan permeates ke dalam tanah. So this kind of expression is not simply artistic. It is scientific, in fact. So whenever we read Prof. Al-Attas, we must be really careful as well, try to appreciate the salient terms that he's been using all along. So from the definition of Islamic civilization, we can say that the meaning actually comes from the people itself. I went to Turkey last 2 years, and I'm sure some of you have been to other parts of Muslim world. If we went to Middle East or Turkey, it is very easy for us to view the proof of Islamic civilization. Why? We know that in those parts of the world, they have big monuments, especially mosques, universities, that have been existing for the past 600 years. So, no doubt, despite Turkey being a secular country, you cannot deny the fact that its history is Islamic. Because you can see, whenever you go through Istanbul, Busra, or Ankara perhaps not, because it's a new city, Bursa, you can find a lot of mosques, a very big one. And normally mosques in Turkey, or in Ottoman era, were built at the highest top of certain land, in order to reflect the majesticness of Islam above all other secular buildings. So it's very easy for you to feel embraced by the atmosphere of Islamicness in those countries. But in our country, it's very, very hard to find a building or any architectural features that has been kept long and could be a proof, a testament to our Islamic identity. Perhaps it's due to our climate. We live in a very humid condition. Some of our buildings being made by wood, so they deteriorated and being destroyed as time passes by. But nonetheless, it does not stop us to understand or to figure out our real meaning of Islam in our civilization, in our Malay civilization. So, this definition by Professor Al-Attas has actually taken into consider a very important concept which he developed earlier than this throughout his study, which is Islamization of Malay world. Because as being testified by our brother Syed Osman, the one that have been studying us all along were the Dutch. Especially they were, because the Dutch were colonizing, and also the British. Raffles, for example. But the most prominent Orientalists mostly were the Dutch. They were the ones who have been studying Islam, not as a religion, but Islam as a cultural force. So when they study Islam as a cultural force, they study Islam with their own framework of thinking or worldview. Therefore, the only thing that they try to reflect from our culture, our Malay civilization, are in the forms of tangible things. Forms that can be seen with eyes, can be touched, can be measured. That's why most of their writings were concentrating upon the monuments like Candi, Borobudur, and everything. And that's why they say Islam in Malay world, in Malay Archipelago, is a syncretic Islam. Islam yang bertempik dan bercampur baur dengan pengaruh Hindu-Buddha. Because they can find a lot of terms, Sanskrit terms being used by the Malays, sembahyang, dosa, pahala, syurga, neraka. Those are not Arabic terms. Those are Sanskrit. So, why do they view us like that? It is because, as stated by Prof. Al-Attas, the Westerners, the way they understand their religion is through arts. You can see if you go to the churches, you can see in Da Vinci Code movie, Angel and Demon, and all other sort of movies. For example, the fresco dekat church tu. You can see the Michelangelo punya drawing dekat church, dekat ceiling church tu. You can go to even normal churches. And recently we know how, you see, when people saw this so-called figment of Virgin Mary kan, dekat dinding, dekat tingkat hospital. So that's how they express their religion, or how they view their religion. It's through arts. Because that's why Westerners are very competent and very good in producing human-like arts. Bentuk arca-arcanya. If you go to modern universities, in Western world, in Oxford or other parts of Western universities, you can find many monuments, many statues. Because that's how they express their identity. So, bila dia study kita kat sini, dia akan cuba impose lah apa yang dia tengok dekat dalam negara dia, dalam budaya dia pada kita. That's how they limited and misconstrued our history by saying Islam here, or Malay here, is a form of Muslim that has been syncretized by Hindu and Buddhist influence. Next. But who is Malay? Okay. I think this is more definitive and is a more improved version of expression and clarification on who is Malay, as stated by Shaykh Zayn al-Faṭānī just now, in which Prof. Al-Attas said the name Malay or Melayu is derived from the name of a people who inhabited an ancient state in Sumatra, known to the Chinese in the mid-7th century as Moloyo, which was situated in Jambi on the southeastern coast of Sumatra. Ini yang sahabat kita Syed Usman kata tadi. These ancient people spoke a relatively undeveloped language, which was not Malay as we know it today. They didn't speak the same Malay that we are having now, but which scholars refer to as Old Malay, which had no written form of its own. Why there's no written form? Because, as stated by Sayyidina Usman just now, because Malay language at that time was mostly confined or being used in the courts of the kings and all these Kshatriya, the Brahmin. During those days, our societies were very much hierarchical in order. So the greater majority of people have no access to to this intellectual discourse. So, in fact, it is very, very clear in our history, Islam really, not democratized, I hate to use the word democratized, but provide an egalitarian environment for all people to be able to develop their own self in education, in knowledge, through knowledge. Because that's why we have so many scholars, Muslim scholars who were not Arabs. This has been confirmed by Ibn Khaldun in Ḥadīqah. So, Prof. Al-Attas said the force that moved the genius of the Malay being to create their own new language, is a new language that we're having now, by taking the best words from all the languages of the neighborhood, was the emergence of Islam from within that being. Emergence of Islam from within that being. From within. Okay? It's not being imposed from external form. It was due to Islam also that the knowledge and use of this new Malay language, not only as a lingua franca for international trade and commerce, but more importantly as a literary and scientific language, spread to all parts of the archipelago and gave this heterogeneous region not merely an outward aspect of unity, bukan sahaja perpaduan yang berbentuk zahiriah, but more profoundly an inward unity, malah lebih lagi kesatuan yang berbentuk batin. Of soul, unity of souls bound together in religion, diikat dengan agama Islam. That's why kita ni sebenarnya, kalau kita kata Melayu tu etnik, kurang tepat semua. Kalau kita melihat penjelasan ulama kita, ya, tadi, Melayu itu tidak boleh disempitkan kepada etnik. Kenapa? Kerana setiap daripada kita ini berasal usulkan daripada etnik tertentu. Contohnya, maybe some of you are Javanese, orang Jawa. Maybe some of you orang Banjar. Some of you perhaps Siam. Some of you perhaps orang Palembang, orang Padang. Okay? But you speak the same language. I can understand you despite you came from different families, different localities, different areas. So, if that is so, why we call ourselves as a Malay? That shows as a proof that Malay is not a mere ethnic, but Malay is a great race and also most importantly a kingdom. Malay is a kingdom. Malay unites all these heterogeneous ethnicities that existed in many parts of Malay Archipelago, in those big, small islands in the interior terrain of Sumatra or in Semenanjung. So it is a very important feature to understand. Maknanya orang Melayu kita ni bukannya orang yang bersifat kedaerahan. Dan kita patut berbangga sebenarnya kerana hanya di Malaysia istilah Melayu itu digunakan pakai untuk merujuk kepada bangsa pribumi yang asalnya, yang sebenarnya mewarisi ketamarunan Melayu yang sebelum itu, ketamarunan Islam Melayu sebelum itu. But sadly, some of our scholars, some of our young people, some of our politicians thought that Malay ni something strange to Islam. That's very, very wrong. I'm a Kelantanese and also a Perakit, a Bugis by descent. But I don't call myself Bugis outside that. All of us identify ourselves as Malay first. Then, okay, mu Jawa ke, mu Kelantan ke, tu nombor dua. Okay, next. So, how can we understand civilization? when we could not find any monuments to describe the identity of that civilization. So this, as explained by Al-Attas, is through language. Because language is the window to the meaning of civilization. To reflect further upon this, one must understand also that it's not simply any kind of words that could reflect such characters. Precisely, it is because only the key terms of that language could exemplify, could radiate the distinctive characters of that civilization. For example, in front you can see all these are the key terms. There are many more, but I only include some of them. For example, Ain, Allah, Alam, Fikir, Rab, Akal. Ada dua akal. Okay? So, these are the key terms that has been used by the Malays in their writings, in their vocabularies, day-to-day discussion, in their prose writing, in their scientific writings. It has been part of us. Despite we know, well, most of you perhaps are learning Arabic. These are not really an Arabic, they are Arabic actually, Arabic words, but being used by the Malays. How can that be? Then there must be something going on that produces such result. This is what we call Islamization of language. When Islam came to any civilization, to any people, to any races, the first thing that happened to the culture were the transformation of the language. Try and look at all big Islamic civilization. The Persian, are they still using Pahlavi script? No, they're using Farsi. The Turks, the Turkish language is amalgamation of Persian and also their own language, Turkish dialect and everything. How about Urdu? It is written in the Arabic script, Nasta'liq, Khat. So you can see that even now, Malay also like that. So when this civilization became Muslim, became Muslim, their language should be transformed. And another feature that we can see or prove that our Malay civilization is an Islamic civilization is by a new creative transformation of Arabic word that is not being used by Arabs. For example, the word cha. Cha, Arab doesn't have cha. Persian has. But Malay also has, so we add 2 extra dot dalam jim punya script. Also, ghin. Kita ada sound yang orang Arab tak boleh sebut. Nge. So kita letak 2 titik, jadi nge. Pe. Pun orang Arab tak sebut. Tak percaya, cuba tanya Pak Arab nanti. Tanya, sebut Kuala Lumpur. Dia tak boleh sebut Kuala Lumpur. Sebab dia punya lidah tak boleh sebut lah. Okay? So, that's one of a very interesting feature of Malay civilization actually. How we adapt. I mean, we're not really following the Arabs in total, but we also have our own identity that even the Arab doesn't have. These are some of the contributions that Malay civilization has given to Islamic world. Okay, next. Okay, this one more. But let's go probe further the meaning of how these things being transformed or being adopted by the Malays. How Islamization of language happened? It is through the infusion of meanings, by introducing or borrowing new words. The first is, there are 3 types of mechanism how Islamization of language happened. First is through loaning the words directly. Pinjam secara terus daripada orang Arab khususnya yang dapat kita lihat dalam bentuk rupa baru dan jiwa baru. It has a new feature, a new spelling, and also a new meaning that does not exist in Malay vocabulary before. For example, the word kahwin daripada Parsi sebenarnya. Kahwin, kenduri, but all these words are mundane words. Okay? We also adopted some words from the Portuguese, macam almari, and other lah. But those are all mundane words. But the real significant learning yang kita ambil ni are the key terms. Seperti contoh, ilmu, hak, roh, qalb, dan banyak lagi. Because since we are now using a Roman script, it's very hard for us to connect ourselves to the spirit of Jawi and vis-a-vis Arab in relation to Arabic script. Because bila kita baca skrip Jawi lama ni, kitab Jawi, walaupun kita tak tahu bahasa Arab, tapi kita boleh merasai dan menjiwai bahasa Islam itu. Sebab kita berkongsi rupa. Walaupun makna pun sama sebenarnya. Sebab perkataan itu ditakrif oleh orang Arab. So if you want to understand the real meaning of this term in Malay, you don't refer to Dewan Kamal Dewan. Kamal Dewan, dia tak takrif perkataan Melayu Arab ini, yang sebenarnya kita tak Melayu lah, menggunakan makna-makna yang sudah sabit dalam mu'jam, yang muktabarak, seperti Lisan Arab, Tajul Arus, Kampung Awit dan sebagainya. So, insyaAllah in future, I think my teachers are doing it. There's a need for future scholars to redevelop a new Malay dictionary. If you want to read or refer to old Malay dictionaries written by Orientalists like Wilkinson, Wilkinson for example, you can see that normally this dictionary will write or will explain the origin of these Malay words. Dia kata dia Sanskrit ke, daripada Arab, and you can see most of Malay words are from Arabic. From Arabic. Especially the key terms. Perkataan-perkataan bukan serpihan, tapi perkataan-perkataan biasa-biasa ni tak apalah, kita ambil daripada bangsa lain. Sebab dia tidak mengganggu dan mencorak pemikiran kita dan akidah kita. Tapi perkataan-perkataan yang menayangkan peri makna ilmu dan pandang alam, itu memang akan diambil daripada bahasa Arab. Kerana bahasa Arab itu lahir dalam rahim Al-Quran dan As-Sunnah. Second, lone blend ataupun pungutan padu. Lone blend ni macam mana? Lone blend ni dia rupa lama bercampur rupa baru, dia kahwin. Dia jadi jiwa baru. Okay? For example, the word solat, gerhana. Gerhana tak ada dalam bahasa Arab tak? Solat ada. Okay? Zakat harta, harta pun tak ada. Mal. Okay? Puasa sunat pun tak ada. Puasa saum. Okay? Lagi contohnya suci. Suci ni bahasa Sanskrit. Tapi dalam kitab fiqh, contohnya dalam kitab Siratul Mustaqim Syekh Nuruddin Ar-Radiri, suci lagi merincikan ini sebenarnya merujuk pada perkataan tahur, so clean, so pure. It's a technical term. Tapi sebabkan tak ada dalam bahasa Melayu, jadi dia perlu tambah, ada ubah rupa, tapi makna dia baru. Okey, yang ketiga, ini yang menayangkan kecanggihan Islamisasi di alam Melayu, iaitu loan shift, peralihan paksi makna. Rupa dia lama, rupa dia lama, tapi jiwa baru. Contohnya sembahyang, dosa, pahala, syurga, neraka, semua ni term Sanskrit. All these were Sanskrit terms, but now they infused with Malay meanings. Okay? So those are some of the most important proofs about Islamization. Next. And we can see this is one of the most important remaining monument that we have, beside other tombstones, on the process of Islamization. This is Batu Bersurat of Terengganu. Okay? Already been studied by Prof. Al-Attas way back in the 70s and rightly proven the date of this inscription. You can see there that I have underlined that the word Rasul. Okay? Itu memang kita pinjam bulat-bulat lah, loan word daripada bahasa Arab. Fardu, second tu. Okay? Pun sama. There's no such thing as fardu in Sanskrit and Malay, in Old Malay. But what about the third one? Dewata Mulia Raya. Is that an Islamic term? Is it sound so Hinduish or Buddhist? Hinduish, But it is not. The meaning doesn't reflect any Hindu or Buddhist spirit. Because why? What does it mean? The word Dewata Mulia Raya means, in Arabic, Rabbul Alam. You see, this Batu Bersurat was inscripted, was being scribed, was being engraved 100 years before or prior to the conquer of Istanbul by Sultan Al-Fatani. You see, that shows that Islam already arrived in Malay world. And this batu, this stone, actually explain the process of Islamization. Why? Because the word Dewata Mulia Raya is still being used by the Malays. Dalam Batu Bersurat ni, dia bercakap tentang undang-undang syariah sebenarnya. Bagaimana dikatakan di situ, di Kuala Berak tu, agama Islam ni cuba nak ditegakkanlah undang-undang syariah dia. Jadi di batu ni dipacak sebenarnya di ruangan awam untuk orang-orang tengok. So, since Islam still quite new, you can see that the word Dewata Mulia Raya is still being used. It's a Sanskrit term, Hindu term, but still being used, but being infused with Malay meaning, or with Islamic meaning. So it's no longer Hindu or Buddhist term, but it's an Islamic term, but with the meaning of Islam, rather than, even though the form is Sanskrit. Okay, next. Okay, now I'm about to come into my second phase of presentation, but I will do it quick, inshallah. So I think you have general ideas that Malay is really an Islamic civilization. I've proven to you now. So I'm sure, inshallah, no doubt about that, okay? So right now, after this, if you go out and still talk that Islam and Malay doesn't have connection, you have to see me. I have to beri tausiah lagi. Okay? But so what's next? What's more? After we know about this, we also need to know that such development or such establishment cannot be formed without the concept of ʿAṣabīyah of its people. You see, the word ʿAṣabīyah, I know sometimes people interpret as a very negative meaning, with negative meaning. But in actual fact, throughout scientific discourse of Islam, in the religious sciences, ʿAṣabīyah has a very positive meaning if it is being viewed with the worldview of Islam. Okay, if you use it to view with secular mind, then you have ʿAṣabīyah, the kind of Turkey before Erdogan, Turkism, that's very ʿAṣabīyah, itu ʿAṣabīyah negative. But ʿAṣabīyah that Ibn Khaldun popularized and used is not a false ʿAṣabīyah, but an Islamic one. Right? Let me share with you on the term ʿAṣabīyah, how this concept become crystallized in our tradition. First, it is about how after the death of our Prophet ﷺ, you see, right after the passing of our Prophet ﷺ, the Muslims were divided. Right? I'm sure you already studied the history of Sahaba, Khulafa Rashidun. So, in the episode of after the passing of our Prophet ﷺ, there are three major opinions about how to appoint caliph. What are the criteria that make such candidate eligible for the post? One opinion is based on this hadith of Prophet ﷺ, Isma'u wa ati'u wa in waliya alaikum abdu habshi du zabibah. Hadis yang bercakap tentang taatilah pemimpin kamu yang dilantik hatta daripada seorang hamba Habsyi yang mempunyai rambut yang macam keriting, itulah. Okay? Maksud. Dan this opinion is being subscribed by Mu'tazilah and Khawarij. And at first by Ansar, by the Ansar. Secondly, second opinion is about the hadith of a very short hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmad. Immatu min Quraish. The caliph must be elected from the Quraish, from the Bani Quraish. Okay. The third opinion is Ahlul Bayt, and this is the one that being subscribed by the Shia. So, which is the position of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah? The second one. The second one is the next. It is an ijma of the Sahaba. You can read the Sirah. It is an ijma of Sahaba. After the past, during the Saqifah Bani resign about the argument between Ansar and Muhajirin, whereby Abu Bakr was the one who used this argument to defend that the Muhajirin is the one who is most eligible to replace Prophet as a caliph, not replacing Prophet as a prophet, but as a caliph. So at first they argue, but then after Abu Bakr made this argument, Ansar agreed, but only Sayyidina Ali did not pledge, because there's a disagreement between Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Fatimah, Sayyidina Fatimah. Only after Fatimah passed away, Sayyidina Ali gave his bay'ah to Abu Bakr. But during those days, you see, right after Prophet punya wafat, the Muslim already in a state of dissension, perpecahan. And we know that Sayyidina Abu Bakr fought against the Riddah, the apostates. Memang kelang kabut. So what binds the Sahaba? What gave them the power, extra power, to go further, to fight against these apostates, the enemies of Islam, and to spread their territorial abroad? It is by ʿAṣabīyah of Quraysh. Next. To prove that this is a position in our Al-Sunnah, you can see this is from the manuscript of Aqaid al-Nasafi of the Malay, in the Malay world, in the earliest, one of the oldest non-Malay manuscript, the 6th century Malay translation of Aqaid al-Nasafi. Dikata di situ, hendak-hendak ada daripada kaum Quraisy, dan tiada harus ia lain daripada mereka itu, dan tiada tertentu daripada Bani Hashim, dan tiada anak Ali radhiyallahu anhu daripada mereka itu. Ini position kita. Alright, next. And this argument of ʿAṣabīyah also being used by Imam al-Ghazali in al-Faṭānī. He argued, you can see there, the line, فَشَوْكَ فِي عَصْرِنَا هَذَا مِنْ أَصْنَافِ خَلَائِقِ التُّرْكِ. In the age of ours, from amongst the various kinds of human beings, it is the Turks who possess force. So dalam masa itu, during that time, Imam al-Ghazali, the Sunni, were being confronted by various challenges. One of them is the Fatimid in Egypt. Fatimiyah, the Shia, the Ismaili, exactly, in Egypt. And not to forget, the Crusaders are coming. So the Muslims are in this array actually. Just like us in Malaysia lah. Tengah berpecah ni nak politik ni. So, why? Because during that time, the ʿAṣabīyah or the Seljuk, Zayn dah kena bunuh dengan assassin, were untied. So, who can carry this ummah forward? Said Imam Ghazali. Masa itu dia nak lantik Khalifah Mustazili yang merupakan Bani Quraisy, daripada Bani Quraisy. Imam Ghazali bukan orang Arab, dia orang Persia, orang Parsi. So, Imam Ghazali argued, there are many more arguments, of course I cannot develop here, in the work of Imam Ghazali. He identified the next potential group of people that could salvage the spirit of the Muslim during that time was the Turks. Orang Turki ni belum ada orang Uthmaniyah lagi sini. These Turks are the soldiers that came from the steppe. Central Asia tu, dia orang ni nomads. Orang macam Badui lah, tapi dia bukan orang Arab. So, but they are very good soldier and also disobedient juga. Dia ni rough juga lah, orang macam orang gasar juga lah. But they were Muslim. They are strong. So, Imam Ghazali recognized and he argued on this basis of Quraysh in this work. The importance to defend ʿAṣabīyah of the Muslim by using the Turks as the conduit to bind the Ahli-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, to fight against the challenge of the Muslim in the era. Okay, next. This also you can find in a very nice sirah. Next. You can see, I'm sure, and all of us who have been to sekolah agama, we used to see this book, right? This is our sirah book. Jahlima Janel tu. Nurul Yakin. Saya pun tak tahu. Rupanya ini kitab ringkas yang diringkas daripada Shaykh Al-Khudari Bajuri ini. A famous scholar from Egypt that lives during Ottoman era. So buku tu, kitab tu dah diringkaskan dalam bahasa Melayu dan diajar di sekolah kita. Kitab Nurul Yakin pasal sirah Nabi Muhammad SAW. But the point being, it's not about this kitab, but it's about the other kitab. Next. Before that. Itmam al-Wafa' fi Siratul Khulafa. If you can get this book, it is in the PDF, in online, you can get it. Because it explains the rationale or how our Khulafa Rashidun defend the ʿAṣabīyah and also Islam in the era of dissension, perpecahan yang sangat dahsyat ketika selepas kewafatan Rasulullah SAW. So, said Shaykh Al-Khudari, asir fi takhsis Quraisy bil khilafah, tentang the underlying reason why khilafah kita didirikan atas ʿAṣabīyah Quraisy. Dan dalam ini Shaykh Khudari cited Ibn Khaldun. Okay, we have to see that you can see the underlying Ibn Khaldun and also the bottom part ʿAṣabīyah, the word ʿAṣabīyah. Ibn Khaldun and also Shaykh Khudari reaffirm, maknanya pandangan Ibn Khaldun ini diterima pakai ulama kita zaman-zaman lah. Sampai sekarang ni baru mungkin dah kurang dengar, kurang diperkatakan, kurang diperjelaskan. Khususnya oleh orang-orang Haraki. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. Yeah, because the Haraki people, they view perjuangan bangsa sebagai antithesis kepada perjuangan Islam. Salah dari segi ʿAṣabīyah Islam yang sebenar lah. Begitu ikut sirah kita salah. Okay, but I'm not going to explain further about that. That should be another time. But the point being, the word ʿAṣabīyah is there. Okay, next. And most interestingly, I found that I'm finishing, inshallah. Okay, give me about 2-3 minutes. Aqulu wala na'lamu al-an ʿAṣabīyah kafiyah li himayatu a'immah aqwa min ʿAṣabīyatul qa'imin bi umur muslimin al-an wa hum Banu Uthman bil Constantiniyah. You see, this is an argument being used by Shaykh Khudari to defend the concept of ʿAṣabīyah during his time in circa 1890s to 1920, before the downfall of Uthmaniyah. Okay? Before the downfall of Uthmaniyah, our scholars from Egypt and Arab defend the concept of ʿAṣabīyah that it must be based upon or must be supported by a certain group of people that has the power and influence to help and sustain and defend the Muslim from the enemies, from other challenges. And during his time, he recognized the authority of Banu Uthmaniyah. This is a very strange argument that not many Muslims heard today. Right? Ada kau kata perjuangan bangsa tu mempertahankan agama? Something strange in Malaysia, I heard. But that's the point that I want to clarify tonight. The reason why I explain Malay Civilization, Islamic Civilization is to defend the Malay-ness from being ransacked by people who do not understand the importance of identifying race, a certain race that has the potential and power and influence in this Malay world to accommodate and to fortify Islam. Islam by itself as a religion is not ideal. Islam bukan sekadar konsep, ianya hidup dan menapak di bumi. Penampakan Islam itu haruslah dizahirkan melalui bangsa-bangsa tertentu. Dan di alam Melayu ini, siapa lagi kalau bukan orang Melayu yang maula, custodian kepada Islam itu. So it proves that Malay and